Well, here's my question. If it's a contest or a sport, right? If the hot dog eating, is it a sport? Because really what it is, if they're only doing it on the 4th of July, how are these people practicing and training for it? Are they just really hungry? Where are they getting the hot dog supply from? Are these professional training hot dogs? Do they have a coach, like a hot dog coach? Not a hot dog. That wouldn't make sense if a hot dog was coaching people how to eat hot dogs. So, I don't know about that. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to be talking about endpoint privilege management and the support request option, and how to. Well, I'm not going to tell you now. We're going to do it in the video. What about a hot dog eating Olympics? I'd watch the Olympics if they had that.
Get Rubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about endpoint privilege management. I'm in Intune. I'm going to go to endpoint security, endpoint privilege management. Remember, this is an add-on feature either by itself or, you get it with that Intune Suite. But it's one of the better features Microsoft released as part of this. It works really, really well, actually. So it's definitely cool. So two things we're going to be talking about. The first one is the elevation request feature. So typically what you would do, I'm going to create a new policy. Elevation settings. You only need, well, I shouldn't say one, but depending on your users, you have a default settings policy. Default settings for EPM. And the way this works is your rules will become the exception. So by turning on endpoint privilege management, this gets the client on the machines or the service. I don't know if it's client. And then you're choosing a default elevation response. So are you denying all requests? And this is usually what we've done before, right? You deny everything, and then based on the rules, you're letting certain apps elevate for certain users. You can send the data, we'll do that, reporting scope. Those are really just for the backend stuff, but default elevation response. So if this is the way we did it, that means you had to have rules. Let me go back. You would have rules to say, hey, for this specific app, right, we want to elevate it. So in this case, I have rule for Visual Studio Code. You can see the file code.exe, the file hash, and the elevation type is user confirmed. So even though we're denying everything, we're letting, if someone wants to open Visual Studio Code as an admin, right, if they're in this group, they can do it. And that's that. But one of the questions I get more often than not is, what do you do for apps that you just don't know about? So very common scenario is you have users in your organization who go to install something. And they're not an admin, right? We're going to assume everyone's a standard user because of autopilot. Let's say I download, I don't know, Adobe Creative Cloud, Notepad++, some exe or MSI from the web, and I want to install it. Well, how am I going to let the admin know, hey, I want to install this. I need you to put a rule in place. I'm going to have to somehow communicate that to my IT team. They're going to have to figure out the app I'm trying to install. They're going to have to install it and then essentially create an elevation rule around that app. So that's obviously going to be really cumbersome. It's not going to work. So how can we deal with an incoming request and respond appropriately? Well, that's what I'm going to show you here. So we're going to create a new policy, and it's going to be the elevation settings policy. So what you'll do is we'll say EPM support request all. You can call it whatever you want. The idea is going to be, so I turn it on, so I have that, right? But I'm going to require support approval for any request that comes in, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, I get to review it first, right? So if we assign this to, let's say, all users or a subset of users, they can go grab a brand new app and then attempt to elevate it. So let's see what that looks like in practice. So I went ahead and downloaded some apps. I have the Adobe Creative Cloud, Adobe Reader install, and I want to go ahead and run this with elevated access. So I want to install it because you can see if I run it without it. Here, let's try to just open that up. Yeah, I can't do it because I'm a standard user. So I go to run with elevated access and I put in a justification. I'm a reporter and I am not Superman. Not shady at all for Clark. Okay. So what's our experience on the admin side? So in Endpoint Privilege Management, I go to Elevation Requests, and you can see I have the reader en install exe. So I can look at this and I can see a few things. I can see the request. I'm a reporter and I'm not Superman. Sounds legit. I can see the file path it's sitting in, and I can also see some information about the app itself. Now, what's really nice is I can also look at the device that's being requested on. So I can just take a quick look, make sure we're good. Compliance is compliant. Yeah. You can look at the device config if you're concerned if it has certain policies or not, and just generally look at the last check-in and everything. So yeah, it's clearly talking. It's a healthy device. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to approve this request. Sure. We believe you are not Superman. All right, so that's approved. So now on the client side, within about, I would say, 5 minutes, we'll get a pop-up letting us know it's been approved. If you want, when you're testing, you can do a quick restart just to kick that along. All right, and we can see I have the request approved right after rebooting there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to run that with elevated access, and there we go. You'll have administrative access to this app. So let's continue. And there we go. We can see now I can install Adobe Acrobat Reader. Now, obviously, if this is an app you decide to make available to your organization, you would do it through, you could package it in Company Portal. But for whatever reason, I'm going to throw you a scenario. Let's say this is one that users are downloading over and over again, and it's okay for them to install it, right? So how do we make just a policy to allow them to install that file wherever it ends up? Okay, so let's say we have the app. I downloaded it as a reference, installer exe, and we want to make a rule for that so users can elevate that exe and install it without my approval. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to open PowerShell. And what we can do is we can just copy that as a path. Copy as path. And we can very simply say get file hash. Put the path there. Select object hash. Okay, so now I have this lovely file hash. So now I'm going to create a policy for that specific file. It'll be a rules policy. It'll be called install Acrobat exe. And we're going to edit this instance. We're going to call this install Acrobat Reader exe user confirmed. I would like, I don't need I want a justification and Windows authentication just to make it extra safe. We'll allow the child processes. The file name we know is going to be reader under this whole reader and install.exe. So reader and install.exe. The file path is going to be user profile downloads, because that's where they're going to put it. And we're going to use the file hash. Alright, so I'm going to send that to all devices, or you can scope it to your user group, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to put it out there in the universe. Okay, so now that I changed that policy and in my downloads, I want to run with elevated access. But you can see I don't have to request it. I can just open the app as administrator, put a justification, I need reader, and I can then proceed with the install without having to request that from support. So it's good. Endpoint Privilege Management is maturing, getting more features. I think being able to request like that is good. Also, from an admin perspective, being able to look at, okay, who is requesting what app, and it helps you make decisions, right? If you see a bunch of users in one group requesting access to open, you know, some kind of photo editor or some kind of accounting software that they're trying to install, you can be proactive and go to the business owner for that department and say, hey, should we just make this available in the company portal, or should we just deploy this? And it kind of helps you get a good feel on what's going on while keeping control. So I really like this feature. It's pretty straightforward to set up, works well. Could use a bit of work on the notification side. The one thing I would say is, if you manage Intune, that doesn't mean you necessarily sit in Intune all day. So it'd be nice to have something native being able to send alerts through Teams. I'm sure we can make that work with some, like a Logic app or something, but maybe next time. So let me know what your thoughts are in the Discord, and we'll be seeing you.